All righty. Hey, Althea, how you doing? And I'm letting, all right, letting people in. People are coming in. As they come in as guests, I'll let you in. But I just started recording. Good evening, everyone. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center. And this is Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners. This is a seminar. I gave a free seminar on Saturday, I believe it was, and I had a bunch of feedback. Some people actually even joined my platform, but I gave up a lot of information, a lot of content. So I said, well, let me give a, because people were asking about, I'm sorry I missed it. Can I join the next one? So I'm doing a seminar tonight. Mostly my seminars are $99. So 2 people registered for the seminar, Brooke and Althea, and then everyone else is on here as guests. So if you are a guest, you did not receive the training materials that's included in the registration of the seminar. So you just follow along as best as you can. But for Althea and Ms. Wilson, you have the training materials. So I'll just go through those training materials as well. So Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners is designed for those people who know very little, if anything, about being an independent freight dispatcher. So the question becomes, well, why did you guys choose to do this industry? Well, I think the transportation industry, people are coming in too, by the way. Okay, people are saying thank you. Hello, thank you. All right. The transportation industry is a recession-proof industry. It's not going anywhere because whether you can tell, even in a pandemic, which is what we're going through now, freight still moves. Goods still get from A to B. Things are still moving. So if you can leverage that understanding into a business somehow, whether it's dispatching, whether it's freight brokering, whether it's freight forwarding or what have you, or a trucking company, then you can line yourself up into the $1.3 trillion industry. Now that's the transportation industry across the board, whether it's transportation on land, sea, air, or rail. Combined, it's a 1.3 trillion. Just the trucking industry alone with the tractor trailers on the road, it's about 800 billion. So even if you had 1/2 or 1% of that, you can do well. So letting more people in. So starting a business as an independent freight dispatcher, this is the easiest entry point into it. Starting as a freight broker will be a challenge because you have expenses to initial expenses to get started. The only thing that you would need as an independent freight dispatcher is the ability to get your business license, your EIN, things like that. But you do not need an MC authority. You do not need a bond. You do not need a BOC3 as a independent freight dispatcher. All you need is an agreement between you and the carrier that you're going to be dispatching for. Hey, what's up, Ron? All you need is an agreement between you and the carrier that you're dispatching for, and then you start to find them loads on the load boards starting out. So starting out as a dispatcher, more than likely you're going to be looking for loads for your carriers on load boards because as a new dispatcher, you have yet to establish relationships with brokers and direct shippers where you can give them loads without looking on the load boards. So as a beginner dispatcher, you have to have the understanding of what a load board is, number one, and then number two, how to navigate that to find the loads for your carriers or your owner operators or your truck drivers. Those are all synonymous terms: carriers, truck drivers, owner operators. So now, let me do a quick roll call here. Everybody's here, or there's more people coming in, but I have Althea, Brittany, Cynthia, Global Connect, Ron, Shawana, Shira, Summer, Stepping Stones, which is Miss Wilson, and Teresa. Good evening to everyone. So before I get started, are there any preliminary questions? I know Ron had called me and had a specific question, I believe. So Ron, you want to ask that question now, or?
Good evening, first of all. I actually later as things go on, I kind of been watching a couple YouTube segments and as we go on, because I don't want to get too deep, so I just want you to let you just go ahead on.
Okay. All right. Understood. Okay, go ahead, mute you. All right. So so a dispatcher who knows very little, if anything, about dispatching, I'm going to give you the perspective of how my platform works, and then as you guys have questions, you can we can roll in, and I'll do an interactive seminar tonight. I want feedback, interaction between you guys as we talk, just like we did on Saturday. That was that was an awesome training. Everyone asked their questions. Everyone got their questions answered. So in this platform, Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners, we have 4 main modules that we work on. The first module, of course, is called carrier acquisition. In other words, you have to acquire or get carriers under what is called a dispatcher agreement prior to you finding loads and booking loads with brokers on load boards for those carriers. So in other words, the first step to be a dispatcher is you have to have a carrier to dispatch for. Make sense? You're not dispatching for air, you're not dispatching for free. You got to get a carrier, an owner operator, a truck driver in order to dispatch for. So now the question becomes, well, what are the steps? What are the strategies? What are the techniques in doing that, in acquiring carriers? Okay, good question. So carrier acquisition, the first thing I teach is you have to understand, well, what are the equipment types that you want to involve yourself with when you go after carriers to dispatch for. And what we teach here at Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners is the 3 main equipment types out here on the roads today are the 53-foot dry vans, the 53-foot refrigerated trailers, or what we call reefers, and the 48 or 53-foot flatbeds, okay? So, and the reason why we start with those is because those are the ones that are out here on the road the most. Those are the ones that are posted on the load boards the most, and those are the ones that pay the highest. So why not make your job as a beginner dispatcher easy by transitioning yourself into the industry and going after carriers who drive these types of vehicles so you can make it easier to find loads for yourself starting out. Now, I train starting out with these, but I do not limit it to those. I mean, we can go after, because someone asked me about box trucks. I can show you how to find loads on the load boards for box trucks, hot shots, sprinter vans, cargo vans, what have you. But as a beginning business, if you want to get your feet wet quickly, it would make sense for you, or it would be advisable for you to, I want to choose my words wisely. I don't want to talk like I'm condescending to you guys, but it would be advisable for you guys to start off with the equipment types that are easy to find loads for, easiest. So what makes up the term equipment type? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with the terminology in the trucking industry, because I want to make sure everyone's on the same playing field. So an equipment type is made up of the actual tractor or the truck itself and the trailer that's connected to it. Can you guys see my screen? Type yes in the chat if you can. I want to make sure before I start explaining stuff that you can see the screen. Okay. All right, good. Okay, so the tractor, okay, everybody's saying yes, great. All right, so the tractor or the truck or the power only unit, the power unit is this is an example of one, and then the trailer attached to it, the combination of those two makes up the equipment type category. So this is a dry van trailer or a dry van equipment type because this is a dry van trailer attached to a tractor. So the dry van trailer attached to the tractor makes it a dry van equipment type, Okay, that's the number one. That's the first of the three categories, and it's 53 feet, by the way. The trailer is, I'm sorry. And the second type is a reefer or a refrigerated trailer. You don't see a tractor attached to it, but if a tractor was in front of this trailer, then this would be a refrigerated or a reefer equipment type. And the reason why it's called a reefer, the difference between the dry van and the reefer is that you see this little unit on the front of the trailer is called a TCU, temperature control unit. What that does is it keeps whatever's being hauled, the freight inside the trailer, or what's called commodity, it keeps it pre-cooled to a certain temperature, okay? So you may pick up a load, or your driver may book a load through a broker, and the broker may tell you that it's a reefer load, it needs to stay 0 degrees continuous. So if you hear stuff like that, that means that from the time that your carrier picked that load up from the shipper to the time they deliver it to the receiver, it has to stay at that temperature, running continuously. That means that TCU unit needs to be on and running at that temperature in order to honor that load. So that's the reefer trailer. And then the last of the three major ones is the flatbed trailer. So you see the tractor attached to a flatbed trailer. So this is a flatbed equipment type. So the reason I'm saying it like that, because once I go to the load boards and start showing you guys loads and stuff like that, when you start hearing these other terms, you'll say, okay, I know what that is because Charles said this is that equipment type, thus and so. So keep in mind, we start off for beginner dispatchers focusing on the three major equipment types to make it easier for you to get into the business. And this is under carrier acquisition in module 1. So now once you decide, okay, I'm going to focus on those three. So now how do I go after them? What are some of the methods used to acquire carriers under a dispatcher agreement? So once you decide to go after certain carriers, now you have to get them under a dispatcher agreement. So now the question becomes, well, what is a dispatcher agreement? Okay, so for Althea and Brooke or Miss Wilson, you guys have a copy of the dispatcher agreement in front of you. If you're looking at your training materials, for the others, I will share it on the screen. Okay, Brooke is fine. Okay, all right, Brooke. You guys have a copy of your dispatcher agreement and the profile. Those are one of the training materials that I sent to you guys. The guests, I'll just share the screen so you guys can see it, but you won't have a copy of it. So the first two things that you would need from your owner operator carrier is a dispatcher agreement and the profile sheet. So the dispatcher agreement, and this is just a template right here. This is a template of what it looks like. I'll come out with a more extensive one later on because I got a friend of mine who shared a more extensive one, but this is just an outline of what one could look like. So this is my logo when I initially started dispatching years ago. If you have a logo, you will put your logo here. Then you will put your name as a dispatcher, your phone number, your business line, your email. Get a business email. I see some of you guys have like crazy emails out there. So if you're a professional dispatching company, but you have an email that's not reflective of that, imagine how that looks to a carrier, right? That you're trying to go after. And then if you have a website, if you don't have one, that's fine. But when you do get one, have a business website and then put that on your dispatch agreement. And then you can call it dispatch agreement. You can call it load management agreement, whatever term you want to use, you can call it that. And then this is the body. This is just a smaller dispatch agreement. It's 2 pages. But what it does is basically saying that, hey, Mr. Carrier, I will be your dispatcher for you. Please fill this out, provide me your information, and here's the terms of my agreement. Sign it, return it to me. So in the body of the agreement, the carrier is going to fill out the information in here, right? This first paragraph, they're going to put their information, and then ABC Trucking, for example. Owner operator of truck number 1, trailer number 0 or 2, MC number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, DOT number 67890. hereby authorize or hereby grants authorization and permission to, and in the dispatcher's name or company name, it could be Brooks Dispatching Service. Go ahead. You don't have to actually put your, I say this is a template for you to, guys to use as a guide, but you could put the name of your dispatching company here, you know, XYZ Dispatching Service, to act as my agent for the sole purpose of searching for and booking loads. That's what dispatchers do, number one. Processing all brokerage paperwork. What that means is when you call a broker, and I'm gonna, for Brooke and Althea, they have a copy of the materials. When you call a broker, to initially get your carriers set up with the broker, you need to fill out a broker carrier agreement, a setup packet, and onboarding packet. All three of those terms mean the same thing. And then once you finish that and get set up with the broker, they are going to send you what's called a rate confirmation or a load confirmation. You go over that with your carrier to make sure all the numbers are right according to what the load was posted for. Sign that, send it to the broker, and you're good to go. And I'll give you examples of what those look like so you can see for yourself, okay? So processing all brokerage paperwork and submitting all documents required in order to expedite loads, whether you do a telephone, fax, emails, and then he just provide his license plate number, his or her, and in the state of where he or she lives. So obtaining and or submitting all necessary documents required. So in addition to the carrier packet that you will fill out for your carrier as a dispatcher, the majority of the brokers and or shippers require other documents needed in order to process that carrier and bring them on board to that brokerage so they can run loads for them. They need a copy of their MC authority letter, and I will show you what that looks like. They need a copy of their W-9, and I'll show you what that looks like. They need a copy of their certificate of insurance. I'll show you what that looks like. And they also need a copy of their what's called an NOA, a notice of assignment, assuming that the carrier has what's called a factory company. So let's finish the dispatch agreement, and I'll go into those other documents later under forms and documents. So we got the carrier packet, we have the rate confirmation, what I just mentioned, and we have the other documents, booking documents that you need. So you pretty much in the back office have all the necessary documents that you need to understand in your workflow of being a dispatcher before you start dispatching for carriers, okay? So the second paragraph here, all billing, invoicing, collections of revenue from the customers, brokers, shippers, whoever, are the sole responsibility of the carrier. The dispatcher has nothing to do with collecting the money from the broker or shipper. That's the carrier's responsibility because the carrier is the one that ran the loads. Now, if you feel inclined to get involved in that, I highly recommend don't do it. But if you feel inclined to do it for your dispatching company, you figure you want to add that as an extra added service to your business, you can do that. But I'm going to say, starting out as a dispatcher, I do not recommend it. But as your dispatching company grow and you want to add that extra service, maybe you have a factory company added to your dispatching business and you could provide an extra service, an extra way to get your carrier paid quickly, then fine, that'll be great. But starting out and learning the business, I would not get involved in the monies part of it between the carrier and the broker. Just focus on finding loads for them and invoicing them once they book that load and get paid, okay? If revenue for a shipment or shipments is uncollectible, this highlighted person's name, which is be the dispatcher or the dispatching company, will be held harmless and no penalty or deduction of fees will be made. In other words, if a broker or a shipper does not pay the carrier for delivering that load, they cannot come after the dispatcher. Why? Because the dispatcher had nothing to do with the payment of the load. We just booked the load. It's the broker or the shipper's responsibility to pay the carrier for that load. It has nothing to do with the dispatcher, okay? And this verbiage, this line needs to be there documented so it can protect the dispatcher. That's why it's in the dispatcher agreement, okay? Any questions so far before I move on for that?
Question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a broker and a shipper?
The shipper is the broker's customer. The shipper is the one who controls the money. So the brokers get the loads from the shippers, and then they broker those loads to the carrier for a percentage, for a fee. So in other words, if I was a broker and you were the shipper, I would come after you and say, hey, Mr. Shipper, I can move your loads for you. I got X, Y, Z number of trucks, and you award me that contract. So you send me like 10 loads a day. So now I got to get those loads out. So I'm going to post them on load boards, go after carriers, and then try to book those loads. So you control that. You send me a load tender. And I think Cynthia probably needs to hear this too. So she understands the difference between the shipper. Well, she knows because she's a broker. She's filing for her brokerage now. So you are going to be the type of person that she goes after for her loads, because you are the shipper. You are the one who sells that load. And then you can control the load tender, how much you're going to pay for the load. And then once the broker gets that contract, they take their percentage or their margin off the top and then resell it to the carrier for a specific amount. Okay, so the shippers and customers in the eyes of the brokers are the same people. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. So in the dispatch agreement, the carrier agrees to maintain all proper licenses and permits. Basically, this is saying that before a carrier can get set up, you're making sure that before you get this dispatch agreement between you and your carrier, you want to make sure that your carrier has all the legitimate paperwork that they need, because you as a dispatcher, you know that they're going to need an MC authority, they're going to need a W-9, they're going to need a certificate of insurance, because that's what all brokers ask for. So as a dispatcher, knowing this, why not get these documents ahead of time from your carrier prior to booking loads for them? It just makes your process of booking loads a little bit more streamlined. Okay. So, and then this sentence here, right here, dispatcher, whoever, Ron's dispatching service will be held harmless in the event in any and all claims. So what that means is, if you have a carrier under a dispatcher agreement, and let's say that they're late, they get to a receiver to deliver and the freight is damaged. Well, the receiver is going to file a claim against the bond or against the authority of that carrier. This sentence right here is saying that the dispatcher had nothing to do with that, so they are harmless in that claim filing. And they're right. The dispatcher did not have anything to do with that, because the dispatcher was not in the truck driving with the truck driver to deliver that load. So how in the world will a dispatcher have be harmful in that claim, because they booked the load, but they're not controlling how the carrier gets there and damage the freight. But again, this needs to be stated in the agreement and seen and documented, so it covers the dispatcher, right? Just protecting yourself. Now getting into the money, how much do we charge carriers? What is our fee for our services? So there's two types of ways that dispatchers can charge carriers. They can either charge a flat rate per week, depending on how many loads they find for them, or they can charge a percentage for the load. The range of percentages is between 5 and 10%. I just put 10 here as an example, right? So, but you got two payment philosophies or two payment methods in your business model as a dispatching business. If you think it's more profitable for you to charge a flat rate, and you can interchange them, you can mix and match them per each type of carrier, per each type of equipment that you get under a dispatcher agreement. You may have a carrier who only runs so much per week. You may charge them a flat rate because you know they only want 3 loads a week. You may have a carrier that runs forever, 2 weeks out, send me out for 2 weeks. Okay, I'm gonna charge you 8% per load. So you wanna, but only you know that for your business model, right? So you will know whether you charge this one a flat rate, this one a percentage, because you wanna bring as much income into your business as possible. You guys, do I need to explain that a little bit more? You guys got that? All right. Now, as loads are picked up, this is still in the dispatcher agreement. As loads are picked up and the carrier is paid first, whether they're paid by the broker or whether they're paid through the factory company, then you can invoice them for your percentage after that. So they have to get paid first, and then you invoice them. Now, as you build a relationship up with your carriers, some carriers say, well, just send me an invoice once you book the load, and they get a rate confirmation because they know that that money is already there. You know, I've had carriers tell me, send an invoice, send me your invoice after I booked the load. Didn't even get the rate confirmation, but after I booked the load. So, all right. And this is the rest of this dispatch agreement. This little phrase here is almost like a power of attorney. It's just saying that the carrier is authorizing the dispatcher to complete the carrier setup packets and the rate confirmations on the carrier's behalf, and the carrier initials right there to help you. So, and it's all in the dispatcher agreement. The carrier puts their cell number, their email, and their signature, the name of their company, the date, so on and so forth. So that is the dispatcher agreement in a nutshell. You guys who are in the ongoing training or have registered tonight and have this as a template, if you're starting your dispatching company, you can use this as a template and then structure it according to your dispatching business. All right, so that's the dispatcher agreement. The second piece that you send to the carrier is the profile sheet. So the purpose of the profile sheet, and before I move on, are there any questions about the dispatcher agreement? All right, no questions about the dispatcher agreement. Cool, cool. And could everyone still hear me and see me? I want to make sure I got, all right. Make sure I'm loud enough. Okay, okay. All right. So the carrier profile or the carrier preference sheet, this second piece of, this second form is in addition to the dispatcher agreement. What this does is this is a way for the carrier to tell you how they want you to find their loads for them. They're giving you a preference, what they prefer. Some carriers don't want to go into the mountains. Some carriers don't want to go to Florida. Some carriers just want to stay on flat land. Some carriers don't want to work on weekends. So you structure your profile form, fill it, have lines in it so they can fill it out. You want to make sure that you got their main parts first, their carrier name, where they live, city, state, and zip. Do you travel in the mountains? And you can add to and take away from this. This is just an example, and it's a small one, but it's just giving you the idea of how to create it. Some of the main things you want to make sure you have their equipment type, of course. Do they do long haul, short haul? Some people may add, do you have hazmat? Because hazmat loads pays pretty good. What's the maximum capacity of your trailer? Some carriers, when you ask them that, they're not going to give you their literal maximum value. They're going to give you the maximum value that they're willing to haul, because they want to save on fuel. They don't want to always run loads at the maximum of their trailer. They want to run it, and they know their numbers. So what days do they want off? This one that's highlighted, how much money do you need to move your truck, is basically saying how much for your equipment type, what's the least cents per mile are you willing to take for a load? That's pretty much, and you can structure it like that. So instead of saying how much money you need to move your truck, you can reword it in your particular carrier preference form. You can say, what's the least cents per mile you're willing to move your truck for? And depending on the equipment type, flatbed, it could be $2.50 a mile, reefer could be $3 a mile, dry van, it could be $2 a mile. And as you grow and progress in your dispatching company, you'll start to see those numbers, what are the average cents per mile numbers for those specific equipment types. And I can give you samples of that too. So that's it for the carrier preference form. So any questions on that? All right. So we were talking about in carrier acquisition, we talked about the equipment types. We talked about the dispatcher agreement and profile. Oh, other documents. I'm sorry, other documents. So you get your carrier under an agreement, and then the other documents that you need. So once you get the carrier, the dispatcher agreement and the profile returned to you, you also want to, if you can at the same time, ask for the carrier's MC authority letter, the carrier's W-9, and the carrier's certificate of insurance. So I'm opening up all three. So the MC authority letter, this looks familiar to Cynthia. She has a broker MC authority. She's a broker of property. So she's familiar with this DOT FMCSA letter because she received one saying that she's active as a broker. Am I right, Cynthia?
Yes, I have that.
Right. So her service date, whatever her service date that she became active is, it states it right here. So this is just a sample of what one looks like. It's going to say certificate. It's going to have the MC number and the DOT number. An MC number is it stands for motor carrier, and the DOT, of course, is the U.S. Department of Transportation. These are unique identifying numbers for either that trucking company or that owner operator, or in Cynthia's case, the brokerage. They are unique numbers that are issued by the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration, and DOT. It says that you are authorized to either broker property or transport property in the case of the owner operators. In Cynthia's case, she's authorized to broker property in the United States. So there are two categories of MC authorities for brokers. There are four that I know of categories of MC authorities for carriers. The two types for the brokers are broker of property and broker of household goods. I believe Cynthia is a broker of property. She doesn't want to broker moving companies. It's more profitable to broker general freight. And for the owner operators, the four types of MC authority numbers are common carrier, contract carrier, passenger carrier, which are the moving companies, and which are the limousine companies, busing companies, charter buses and things like that. And then household goods, which are the large moving companies like the Atlases, the Covans, these huge tractor trailers that move like army families across the country if they're getting deported or whatever. So those are the examples. So that's an MC authority. So every owner operator that's out here on the road that you get under a dispatch agreement, they have this. Otherwise, they cannot transport goods and service, general freight. So that's the first thing you want to ask for. The next thing you want to ask them for, of course, is their W-9. So the W-9 is for tax purposes. It shows their EIN number being associated with their business name. So ABC Trucking with an EIN number of whatever that 9-digit number is. And it's rare that you see, I've seen it happen before, which I don't recommend, but if you see a owner operator give you a W-9 that has their social security number attached to their business name, you may want to talk to them like, that's not a good idea. So you want to make sure that they have an EIN number attached to their company name. And it's usually the structure of their company. Typically it's an LLC. Sometimes you may see a C Corp and S Corp, but usually it's either a individual single member LLC or a sole proprietor. So if it's a trucking company, it's probably an LLC or even a C Corp. So they'll have their name up here in line 1 that's on their income tax form return. Line 2 will be a DBA, ABC Trucking or whatever, XYZ Freight or Transport. And then section 3 checks the box of their legal structure. In most cases, it's LLC. Lines 5 and 6 will be their city, state, and zip. Address 123 Main Street, anywhere USA 12345 as an example, right? And then part 1, the ID number, the tax identification number, or the EIN that'll be there that they've received when they set their business up as a trucking company or an owner operator. They went out to the irs.gov website and applied for an EIN, just like you guys did. Whoever has a business already set up went out to the www.irs.gov. You did all the correct paperwork and you received an EIN very shortly, within 24 to 48 hours. And then you put that on a W-9 form for your business, signed it and dated it. That's the same thing that trucking companies do. So make sure you get a copy of that from your owner operator to have in your filing system for your business, for your carriers, for each carrier. And then the third form is the certificate of insurance. Now, I'm not sure if Cynthia has this yet, but she will have one for her brokerage. The producer is the insurance company right here.
I'm working on that.
Okay, you're working on it. So the producer is going to be here, like in Cynthia's case, it might be Progressive. The producer's right here, the insurance company. The insured is either the brokerage or in Cynthia's case, or a trucking company, ABC Logistics or ABC Trucking right here. Over in this section will be, of course, the date of the insurance that the policy got created. Right here will be the insurance agent that's on that policy, their name, their email address, phone number, fax number, things like that. And then down here in the body of the is the policies, the policy numbers, the type of policy, whether it's liability, cargo, what have you, and then the beginning date and the ending date of that policy when it expires in each case, and the amount of the policy. Like for example, for liability, it's generally going to be $1 million, and then for cargo, it's generally going to be 100,000. Just so you guys know. And then for Cynthia's case and for the dispatcher's case, you have an area right here called a certificate holder. So as a broker, Cynthia, your customer may or may not require, which is the shippers, your customer may or may not require that you, for every carrier that you have under a load for that particular shipper, that customer of yours, as a broker, they may require that you list your brokerage as a certificate holder on that carrier's certificate of insurance. And then as dispatchers, for everyone else, as dispatchers, when you call a broker and book a load, someone like Cynthia may tell you that because they are being required by their customer, who is the shipper. So Cynthia may say, oh yeah, Mr. Dispatcher, when you send over your other documents that I need to get your carrier set up, my brokerage needs to be made a certificate holder on their certificate of insurance. So the question becomes, well, how is that done? Well, this is what you would do. You would call, because you are the dispatcher, you would call the insurance agent on that certificate of insurance and say, hey, I'm the dispatcher for ABC Trucking. I need a certificate of insurance listing the following brokerage as a certificate holder. So the first thing that the insurance agent is going to do is ask you for that policy number, because they get phone calls all day, all times of the day, all the time. So they need to verify that based off of that policy number that this is one of their customers. Say it's Progressive, policies ABC-123. And in other cases too, I've had this done to me. I gave them the policy number of a certificate of insurance. They actually called the carrier once they found out who the carrier was to confirm that. And the carrier said, yeah, that's Charles, that's my dispatcher. Go ahead and do what he's asking you to do. But I wasn't angry that they did that, because the insurance agent is only doing their job, right? Because they're not going to give out a certificate holder just to anybody. So also it's not every day that some stranger, random person calls an insurance agent asking for a certificate of insurance. So, but everybody's doing their job, so that's cool. There's no need to get angry behind that. So once all that's cleared up, then the insurance agent is going to ask, okay, what's the name of the brokerage and their information, their city, state, zip. So brokerage, Cynthia's Brokerage, LLC, 123 Main Street, anywhere USA, 12345, because you just need the name of the brokerage, the street address, city, state, and zip. They're going to put that information in this box that says certificate holder, and then they're going to ask you, who do I email or fax this to? As a dispatcher, you want to, from the dispatcher side, you want to email it directly to the broker and have the agent CC you, your email, in it. So you kill two birds with one stone. The broker gets and it looks more professional when a broker receives a certificate holder, certificate of insurance directly from the insurance company, as opposed from the dispatcher's email. It looks more professional. That's probably the better way to go. Any questions about that? Or any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes, Summer.
Dispatchers have their own MC number?
They do not.
They cannot.
They do not. Yeah. The
Okay.
dispatchers, when you are, for every carrier that you're dispatching, let's say you have 5 carriers, right, that you got under a dispatch agreement for your Summers Dispatching LLC, right? And for each of those carriers, when you call the brokers, you are using the MC number of that particular carrier that you're calling that broker to book that load for that carrier under. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Dispatchers do not have MC numbers. They do not, it's not required. They do not need it. They are using the MC numbers of the carriers that they have under a dispatcher agreement. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? And great question, Summer. I appreciate that. So where we are now, we are under the dispatch agreement, the profile, the other documents that you want to receive into your dispatching company prior to even booking a load with a broker for your carrier. You want to have all those documents in front of you. So when you need to upload them and everything, instead of wasting your time calling the carrier all the time, asking for the documents in every single time you book a load, why not get copies of those documents that you always going to need into for your carrier, put them in a separate filing folder for your carrier, and then send them to brokers as you book loads for them. It just makes that process a little bit more streamlined. Okay. So carrier acquisition. So we're still under module 1, right? So now under this training platform, just give you an idea of what we do. So the methods that we use to try to get carriers to get under a dispatch agreement, the number one method, in my opinion, and I've been wrong before, but if you have a truck stop, a physical truck stop within, let's say, a 15, 20-mile radius of where you physically live, like you have a TA's, a Flying J's, a Love, a Pilots, or whatever the name of the truck stop is in your area. Those are common names of truck stops. Pilots, Loves, TAs, Flying J's, those are popular truck stops. So if you have those in your area, why not take your business cards and flyers if you have them, or just take yourself up there and strike up conversations, talk to the carriers about, say, hey, I'm Summer, I have a dispatching company. I can manage loads for you. I can keep you running. This is what I do. This is the service I provide. Do you need help in getting loads? Are you having trouble keeping your truck running? And start a conversation like that, make eye contact, verbal conversation right in front of the carrier. Now, if you have business cards and flyers and you go to a truck stop and you want to pass those out or post flyers and cards on bulletin boards at the truck stops, just make sure you get the permission from the management staff prior to doing that. It's just a level of respect. So I highlight that there. You just don't want to bogart walking into a truck stop just posting stuff and nobody even knows who you are. So it's just a little professionalism. So, all right, so that's number one. Number two, which is probably the scariest method that people know of, because it's cold calling, and some people may not be good at cold calling people who they do not know for the very first time. How do you start that conversation out, stuff like that. So one of the resources that we use to cold call, or to look for carriers to cold call, is one of the load boards. It's called Trucker's Path. And I'm going to open that up now. Trucker's Path, along with a website, the Safer website for the FMCSA. So Trucker's Path and the Safer website, if you guys can still see my screen. And the reason why I use the Safer website is a company snapshot. You can look up brokers, freight forwarders, dispatchers, trucking companies based off of 3 search criteria on Safer website, which is the DOT number, the MC number, or the name of the company. So you can look up a brokerage by their name or MC number or DOT. You can look up a trucking company by their name, MC or DOT, so on and so forth. I use that resource, and I'm going to copy that and put that in the chat for you guys to have if you do not have it. There it is. I use that as a resource to help me vet out carriers to make sure that I'm not doing what's called double brokering. So does anyone have a question? It looks like I thought Latoya was great. Come in. I see her. Now, this here is Trucker's Path or Truckloads. It's a load board It's one of the load boards that I use to vet out carriers and to search for carriers, okay? So when I first log into this, you get this screen here. At the top, you have loads, truck search, GPS tracking, okay? Someone is trying to get in, I think. All right. So under truck search, now I'm brought to this screen here. Right now, the result set shows 199 carriers who are currently logged in right now as we speak. They're either logged in looking for a load, or there's 199 carriers logged in making their truck available for a load, okay? So that's what that means when you look at that. So now I'm going to filter out and do my search criteria a little different. So when you first log into this, I'm going to leave pickup for all states because I want to increase the probability of finding carriers across the country. Now, if you're starting out, if you know you just want to focus on your state where you live, then you just select that state, let's say Georgia. Otherwise, just leave all states selected. And I recommend for beginner dispatchers to do so. Equipment types. Remember the three major ones? Anybody remember those three major equipment types that we first started off in our conversation?
Van, reefer, and flatbed.
Van, reefer, who was that? Okay, Althea. So I'm gonna check the box that says any to uncheck everything, and I'm gonna select flatbed, van, and reefer, the three major ones, all right? And then under safety rating, I'm gonna do the drop down, and I'm gonna uncheck conditional and leave conditional and unsatisfactory unchecked, right? Because why would I call a broker with a carrier who has a safety rating of either conditional or unsatisfactory? Does that make sense to anyone? It draws red flags to the broker because the broker is going to ask for the MC number of the carrier before they look them up to see if they can get them set up with their company. And if they see an unsatisfactory or a conditional safety rating, that broker is going to be a little bit apprehensive about bringing them on board and even giving you that load. So just choose satisfactory starting out. I'm going to hit search. So now 199 went to 99. So now you get 99 carriers who are logged in with just a satisfactory rating, and they're different equipment types: reefers, flatbeds, and vans, the three that we selected, right? So this is how you read this. This person posted a minute ago the name of their company, Sherwood Trucking, equipment is a reefer, satisfactory rating because all of them are, their personal name. So he could be either a company driver, John Baird, or he could be the owner of that company, and then a contact number. If you notice at the end of each one, there's a little blue drop-down arrow. It expands that to give you more information. So you see all this now? Now there's a DOT, MC number, an email address, all this data, where they've traveled, where they go, where they currently are right now, or where they're from. So he's currently, according to this, he's in Virginia right now, because that's where the brown chart is at, right? So what I usually do is take and copy either the MC or DOT. I'm gonna do MC in this case, and then I go to my Safer website, and I paste it for MC, because I copied the MC, right? MC, I go to, and then I paste that value, and then I get information. Now, this is the Safer website. A company, now here's a company snapshot of this trucking company that I just looked at to help me determine if I'm going to cold call that person to see if I can get them to do a dispatcher agreement with me, okay? So the first thing you look for is an entity type. You want to make sure that the entity type says just carrier. If it said carrier / IEP or carrier / broker, my recommendation is to stay away from that. Just make sure that entity type just says carrier. And then you make sure that they have an operating status of property, that they're authorized for property, which means that they have an active MC authority. Sometimes you may see this says not authorized in bold red letters. and then they have an MC and DOT. They have 4 trucks and 4 drivers. So each driver has their own truck. And last year they drove 232,384 miles. They just renewed their MCS 150 form back on the 26th of June. Basically, that's the UCR, Cynthia, that I was talking about, the UCR.
Yes, okay.
Okay, the Unified Carrier Registration. So they renewed theirs, they updated it back in June, which tells me that they may have formed their company back in June of 2019, and then they drove with those 4 trucks, 232,000 miles. So here's another recommendation that I do for beginner dispatchers. Start small, 1, 2, 3, up to maybe 5 trucks. So if you're using the Safer website to vet out carriers, and if you have 5 or less or 3 or less trucks, you can try to call this company to see if you can be a dispatcher for them. But if it's like 10 trucks, 20 trucks, those are large trucking companies. I'm not sure if you as a beginner going to be ready to handle that at this point, because you're still learning the very basics of being a dispatcher. So it just makes sense to start small with smaller trucking companies, maybe even a one-man team, a one owner operator with his own one truck and trailer. And you just grow with that person. He may add a truck to his company as you start dispatching for them. So any questions about the Safer website? All right, no questions? All right, so now you guys want me to give you some shock therapy? What do you do when you call a carrier? What do you say to them, right? Any idea of what to say, or how do you start? People are trying to get into the class and it's kind of too late. I am so sorry. So I'm going to turn and you guys can see my screen, right? And my telephone and everything. So this person, John Baird, he's a reefer. So if you are looking at the trucker's path, you get to see what equipment type they have. You look them up on Safer to kind of vet them out. It's a 4-man team. It's a trucking company, Sherwood. So John Baird is probably a company driver for Sherwood Trucking Incorporated, and he's a reefer guy, right? So let's say you wanted to call him. What would you say, right? So let's do that. I've never called this person in my life. I always call people live. I always call brokers live. I always call carriers live. If any of you have ever had trainers that haven't done that, I'm not sure why, but even if we get a bad experience with it, at least you learn something from it. I'm showing you that I'm dialing that number, okay? Just so you guys will know. So everybody stay quiet, please. Hey, can I speak to John Baird, please? Oh, Baird, I'm sorry. Hey, my name is Charles with Exodus Dispatching. Hey, are you under a load or looking for a load for your reefer? Oh, where you at, man? Whoa. You said, what major city is that by? Is that like Columbia? Is that like Somerville or?
We ride South Florence.
Okay, Florence. And where are you trying to go? Are you trying to go anywhere? Or you have a certain area you're trying to get to, or?
Nah, I just go wherever the money's at.
Wherever. So do you do one-and-ones, like one pick, one drop, or does it matter? Depends on what it's paying or what?
They don't matter. If it's paying good, I do multiple pickup, multiple stop.
Okay. And then the least cents per mile you willing to pick up a load is by what? $3, $3.50, something like that, or?
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
that's correct.
Okay, $3 to $3.50. All right. Well, I'm part of a large dispatching network. I can probably see if I can find you something. I got an email here, John Baird 86 at Yahoo. Is it okay for me to contact you if I find something?
That'll work.
All right, bro. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. How easy was that? Can I get some feedback? Can I get some interactive training, please?
It seemed pretty easy. I thought that you would have had to be a little bit, you just spoke as yourself. I thought you had, it
Right.
had to be a little bit more.
Scripts.
Yes, exactly.
Because you know what? Starting out for beginner dispatchers, there is scripts that they tell you, hey, my name is Charles, blah, blah, some robotic type stuff. But I want to get you guys, I train with scripts, but most carriers, they feel that, right? If you start just a general conversation with the carrier, then it flows a little bit more realistically, right? More humanistically. So, but you also have to understand the lingo. See, when I was telling him certain things, he understood what I was saying, like one and ones, where you trying to go, or where you empty at? Are you under a load, looking for a load? You guys had no idea maybe what I was saying, but you will in basic training, in the basic training where I'll explain exactly what I just said, what that means, and how you guys, and to be honest, women have an easier, and I don't want to sound sexist, but women have an easier time getting carriers under a dispatcher agreement than men once they learn that terminology.
I did ski patrol in Utah. I even crew a lot of
Right.
name.
So let me see. I got somebody that's off mute.
10 lives. I can barely manage one.
But how did that sound? So people saying, how do I ask if they are authorized to sign a dispatcher agreement? Right. So what I'm guessing, Shira, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. What I'm guessing is because you may see that he may be a company driver. He may be a company driver. That's probably why you're asking if they're authorized to sign a dispatch agreement. Or he sounds like he's an owner operator who's just leasing under that trucking company's authority. That may be the case because based off of the conversation, he sounds like he can get a load go anywhere. So I didn't pick up on the fact that he could have been a company driver, but based off of the conversation, it sounds like he's an owner operator. He just doesn't have his authority. So those type of truck drivers exist. Those truck drivers who do not have an authority, but they are independent owner operators, but they're leasing under a company's authority, and they're giving them a percentage of what they make off the loads until they get their own authority. So under a load, she said, Brooke said, what is under a load? What I mean is, do they have a load on their truck? It does sound, so carriers know, they know loads, right? So are you under a load, or do you have something on your truck? Or do you have freight on your truck? Are you under something, or are you empty or looking for something? He says, I'm looking for something out of Florence. So let's transition the information, because I was writing as I was talking to him. So let's transition his information. He says he was near Florence, South Carolina. He wants to go anywhere. Let's transition that into module 2, which is load boards, right? So that's a nice segue into module 2, load boards, and how to use load boards. Because this is what you would do as a dispatcher. Let's say that conversation went well for you out there, or went well for you, Shira or Teresa or Brooke, and you guys, and he said, yeah, go ahead and send me a dispatch agreement. So what I would do next is when I told him I had his email, I would shoot him an email dispatch agreement, and then let him know that I may have found something for him. And the sooner he get that dispatch agreement back, we can start moving loads for him. So now, once you get him to say, give you the email or confirm that you can send something to his email, now you start your email marketing campaign, and then you're still looking for loads for them. And you get as much information while you got them on the phone. I was getting information from him, how much he wants per mile. With reefers or refrigerated trailers, they do more than one pickup and they do more than one delivery, or picks and drops. We call them a 1-in-1, means that they're picking up from one shipper and they're delivering to one receiver. But sometimes, in most cases, reefers have maybe 2 picks, 3 drops, 3 picks, 2 drops, whatever. It's rare that you have 1-in-1s, okay? So, go ahead.
I see you asked him, his moving of the truck was $3 to $3.50.
Right.
Is that the beginning rate to start at?
That's realistic for reefers now that the rates are going up. And you would have to understand the seasons and where a particular truck is located in the country and the type of freight that's being moved that dictates those type of rates. And again, you will learn that as you move along in dispatching. But as a broker, you're definitely going to be able to have more control of that because you're getting those loads from your customer, which is the shippers. So you will be able to finagle that a little bit in order to generate rates for your carriers that meet that qualifier, $3 to $3.50 a mile as a broker. So, all right. So let's transition. So we found a use case, if you will, this person here. So let's go to a load board. And one of the load boards I can go to, and again, a load board is where you go to find the loads for your carrier. So I'm going to log into Internet Truck Stop, which is one of the load boards. And I will explain the navigation of it. So you have either a quick search way to do it, origin, equipment type, destination, city and state, and then quick search, or you can do it by a new search. In this particular load board, there's different ways. Different load boards have different features, but the commonalities of the load boards is that you always have an origin of where you're picking up from, or the shipper, city and state, an equipment type of what type of equipment you're using to pick up the freight under, and then you always have a destination, city and state, of where you're going to be delivering the freight to. Those are the commonalities in all load boards. Where the load boards differ in features and price is the other added features, right? So this particular load board, Internet Truck Stop, I'm going to do the new search and then open it up a little bit for you so you can see that. So he says he was in Florence or near Florence, South Carolina. So that's his origin. Florence, South Carolina, the load, right? And I'm gonna keep his radius. I'm gonna do Florence and within a 100-mile radius. And I'm gonna leave, that's the origin box right here. The destination box, I'm gonna leave blank because he said anywhere. So any, and I'm just gonna say USA, not Mexico and Canada. I'm just gonna say loads in the USA and anywhere within 100 miles. His equipment type is a reefer. I'm gonna click my cursor and hit type R and select refrigerated reefer. He wanted something tomorrow, but I'm gonna leave the pickup date blank. I'm gonna leave any time it was posted. Everything else I'm gonna leave set as default, just to give you an example of how to navigate and how to read it. Never mind that, that's just features of the load board. Add to my searches. There. So that could become annoying after a while, I'll be honest with you. So Florence, South Carolina to anywhere is 348 loads total. Right now they're grouped in 10s. I'm gonna expand that to like 200 so I can see more of the loads. All right, so let me bring this up a little bit. So, and then I'm gonna see the rate. I'm gonna click rate and put it in order, sort it from highest paying to lowest paying load. So now you see a $3,700 load, but the miles is going so much, right? So the key to getting close to that cents per mile that he wants is to figure out a cents per mile. You would have to divide the, let's do this. Let me log out of this real quick because I don't want to annoy you guys with that one. Let me open up another different type of load board because I don't want to drive you guys crazy with that sound. Let's open up, let's see, Trucker's Path. I mean, not Trucker's Path, Trucker's Edge. Let's open, that's the second. And this is by DAT, D-A-T, which is Dial a Truck. I have about 6 load boards on this training platform for beginners. For those who are enrolled members, you will have access to that. If you were to enroll, I'm sorry. So now Let's see, someone's trying to get into the training. Okay, never mind. All right, so let's do that origin. Let's search for the load again. Florence, South Carolina, and the destination anywhere. You could either do a general or a specific equipment type. We want to do a general one, which is a reefer. We're going to uncheck van. We're going to select reefer. We want to leave the everything else default, the length, weight. We want both full and partial loads. Pickup date. Today is the 28th, so let's take that out. And hit search, okay? So now it came up with 1,298 total results. 152 of them is exact. So I'm gonna minimize my screen so I can expand it and see more of it on the screen here for you guys, okay? So now, if you notice, the first one is, there's a black bar across it, and then on this side, this is the details of that one that's highlighted in black. So if I click it again on this one, it's going to show the details over here of that particular one right there. You guys follow what I'm doing? So if I click that, this one is going to show the details of that one, picking up in Aiken, South Carolina, going to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, right there, and the details of it. So when you call the broker. So I'm going to click offer. Every load board gives you a feature where you can put the rates that are posted in order from highest to lowest. Sometimes it's called rate, sometimes it's called offer, sometimes it's called price. But I'm gonna put it in order from highest to lowest by clicking offer. So now you see 3,000, 2,400 going down, so on and so forth. So to calculate the point I was making before, to calculate cents per mile, you divide what the load is paying by the number of miles that it is going. So for example, this is a $3,000 paying load, but the trip miles is 23.66. So someone give me a cents per mile. What is that? 3,000 divided by 23.66.
1.26.
So $1.28 or 27 cents per mile. So obviously that carrier is not going to take that load, right? So even though you see a high paying rate for a particular load, you always want to look at how far that load is going before you determine if you want to, because it's 53 foot, it's a van or reefer, 53-foot trailer, and it's 20,000 pounds, so it's well below, he's going to save on fuel, but you got to drive forever. You got to go from Charlotte, North Carolina over to Fontana, California, only for $3,000. Are you kidding me? And you don't know how many stops with a reefer load. You don't know how many stops because it doesn't say in here. You got to call a broker and get that from them. How many stops is that load? Speaking of which, if this is a California broker, let me call this broker. Let's get some experience with a broker real quick to see. And so you can see, so you heard the dialogue between a carrier and a dispatcher. Now, if this person picks up, because it's a West Coast load, but it could be an East Coast broker, they may be closed at 7 o'clock right now. So, but on the East Coast, it's 4 o'clock because it's 3-hour time difference. So we may luck up and get this broker, because I want you to hear the dialogue, okay?
Hi, and welcome to Allstate Association's Posted Loads Hotline. In order to connect you to the proper agent, you would need their 3-digit extension. For operations, carrier compliance, or accounting, please refer to the Allstate Association's main number, which can be located on your rate confirmation. Thank you.
So I don't have, okay, so they have an email in here too to contact this person. So I would have to contact them email because I don't have a 3-digit extension that they're talking about in the posting of the load on the load board. So,
hi, and welcome.
So that's a red flag for me. If a broker doesn't provide enough information to even get a hold of them, you know, that's a red flag. But moving on to the next one, let's see. So let's find a load like this one here, Statesville, North Carolina, for a reefer going down to Florida. Oh, Summer says, can you explain credit score? What's acceptable and days to pay? Does that include a factoring company? So the credit scores are the credit ratings or for the broker company. They may have a good credit rating, they may have a bad credit rating, but that will be besides the point. If your carrier has a factoring company, then your carrier is going to cover paying your carrier, the factoring company is going to cover paying your carrier for you. Because they're going to do all the back end work with the broker getting the money from them. And they got enough revenue, enough cash flow to pay the carrier up front for a particular fee. Factoring companies charge between 1% and 5% for their service. And they have either recourse or non-recourse factoring. And the difference between the two is one goes after the brokers for non-payment through small claims courts and things like that, as opposed to the carrier having to take time out of their day to go to court to deal with small money that they don't even have time for, because every day that a carrier missed, that could be potentially thousands of dollars. So, all right. So let's look at this one here. So again, when I highlight one, it shows the details of that one. So the reason why I chose this one, because if you notice, it's low mileage and it's still a decent high rate. So give me a cents per mile. Someone give me a cents per mile for this one. What is the rate for that load, cents per mile? 2,000 divided by
3.327.
So $3.327. So that's now that's within that carrier's range, right? So we just found a load that's between the $3 and $3.50. This one's $3. It's actually halfway between, because $3.25 is between $3 and $3.50. So we're in the ballpark now, but he has to go north and then come back south to Florida, because he's in Florence, South Carolina. He has to deadhead 144 miles north to pick that load up in Statesville, North Carolina. And then he has to drive down to Winter Haven, Florida to deliver it. And then we don't know how many stops is on this load. Let's see if it says if it's a one-on-one. See, it doesn't list anything in the comments. So you would have to call the broker to get more details. And that's what you normally do as a dispatcher anyway. You call the broker, you get more details about the load, and you will have a sheet. If you go through this training, you'll have a sheet in front of you, or what's called a load details cheat sheet. Some of the common questions that you would ask a broker for your carrier based off of the equipment type that your carrier has. Some of the things that your carrier need to know in order to decide if they want to take that load or not. For a reefer, of course, you want to know, is it a one-and-one? Is it just one pickup, one drop? One pickup, one drop. You know, how many stops going, how many stops coming? It's 40,000 pounds, it's 53 feet, you know. Pickup dates and times, delivery dates and times. Is it FCFS, first come, first serve? In other words, it's a 24-hour pickup or a shipper, 24-hour receiver. So these are some of the common questions. And I have all of that in the back office. Everything is laid out for a dispatcher because I've been through the experience, so I know what to expect. So I put everything in like a format that's like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, here it is. What do I do now? Here it is, so on and so forth. I'm just showing you guys navigating the load board and giving you a sense of calling the carrier. We did that. We tried to call a broker because I wanted you guys to hear that conversation. When I start training more during the daytime, we definitely will call brokers and you'll get the lingo and you'll base off of what I say, and you can pick up, add to, and design your own techniques as you hear the verbiage coming from the broker. And it's going to be a lot of common things that they say. They try to trick you and stuff like that. But I've been through all those tricks and treats that they try to put on trucking companies or dispatchers. So I know all the little nuances that they try to do. So that was a good one. Here's one here. That's going to be right at, here's one right here, picking up directly in Florence. No deadhead. He ain't got to drive nowhere. And it's going to an area where he can get freight out of. That last one was going from Statesville down to Florida. Who knows if we could have got him a load coming out of Florida for a reefer. Most people know, if you notice, most people say it's hard to get loads out of Florida. But here's one here. that's ideal for him. I just saw it. Did I miss it? Oh, right here, Florence, where he's literally at right now, and is going to an area, Pennsylvania, where we can get a load out of. So it's 43.5. It's a lot of weight, but it's only going 601 miles, $1,800. So is that around $3 a mile? Right, 1,800.
It's right at $3.
Right. So now here's a dilemma. It's $299, $295. Okay. So that's what the broker posted the rate for. Now remember, you still have to add in your fee, right? Because you want to add it in on the broker side. So here's where your negotiating skills come in at. You don't want to charge 10% of the $1,800 because you're taking $180 away from the $1,800, right? 10%. What you want to do is 10% of $1,800 is $180, right? So for example, if you were charging 10% for a dispatching fee, right? So let's say, as an example, I just want to show you the technique of how you would negotiate with a broker. So 1,800 plus the $1,880 10% rate that you charge. So now it's $1,980. So when you go back to the broker and you call them about this load, hey, Mr. Blue Grace Logistics in Riverview, Florida. I'm looking at this load here going from Florence, South Carolina, going to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for a reefer. Is that load still available? The broker's going to say, yeah, let me check. By the way, what's your MC? So when he says that, he's asking you for the carrier's MC that you're calling to try to book the load for. He's not asking you literally what's your MC as a dispatcher, because you do not have an MC as a dispatcher, right? So what's your MC? You give him the MC of the carrier. In this case, we'll give it for the gentleman that I just got off the phone with, John Baird, his MC, 464, 961, or what have you. And then he'll look it up in the system. Oh yeah, I see that you're not set up with us, but that's no problem. Let me send you our onboarding packet, our broker carrier agreement, or our carrier packet. Those are all the same thing. They mean the same thing. Basically, he's going to send you this. And we transition right into the carrier packet. Under forms and documents, this is what a carrier packet looks like when a broker sends it to you. General, it's called a broker carrier agreement. This is what one looks like. It's the general gist of it. The broker has their information already pre-filled in, and then the carrier, you put your carrier, because in most cases, the dispatcher will be filling out the broker carrier agreement and the rate confirmation for your carrier with whom you have a dispatcher agreement with, okay? So where every place where it says carrier, you're putting your carrier's information, ABC Trucking, LLC, or whatever the name is. And then you look over the agreement, and we'll go into details in another seminar. We'll go into grave detail about this, because there's some things to look out for in the carrier, broker carrier agreement that you need to look out for your carrier. And then you'll, at the bottom, the broker's gonna have their information. Like in Cynthia's case, she'll have her brokerage information already pre-filled. It's up to the dispatcher now to put the carrier's authorized signature, print the carrier's name, the carrier's title, owner, the carrier's address, phone number, fax, and email. Not any of this is not to be filled out with the dispatcher's information, but the carrier's information. I had a dispatcher actually fill out a broker carrier agreement with their dispatcher information, and that was a lot of red tape behind that to figure out, because it says very at the top, broker carrier agreement. It doesn't say broker dispatcher agreement. The dispatcher is filling out the carrier's information in this agreement and not their information. The dispatcher is representing the carrier in this instance and not themselves, because they're trying to book a load for the carrier. So you're on the phone with the broker. They're saying, what's your MC number? You're not set up with us. Okay, let me send you. They're going to say, what email do I send that carrier agreement to? And you give them your business email as a dispatcher, or you can even give them your carrier's email, send it to the carrier, and have the carrier forward it to you. Either way, But if you got a professional like email, then just send it to your email. Fill that out, send that back in, and the broker's going to ask to fill that carrier packet out, send that in along with those other documents they need to go over to make sure to get that carrier set up with their brokerage, in this case, Blue Grace Logistics, correctly. So the other documents again are the MC authority letter, the W-9, and the certificate of insurance. Those are the three main ones. The reason why the brokers need that is because that's required for compliance for their brokerage and their customer. They want to make sure that the carrier they're trying to book that load for has the authority to do so, which means their MC is active. They have the proper insurance minimums, 100,000 for cargo and $1 million for liability, and that they have a business with an EIN number, which is the W-9. So those are the reasons why brokers require those other documents to be sent. And that's the reason why I require, or I ask or recommend that when dispatchers get carriers under a dispatcher agreement and the profile, to also send those other documents ahead of time. So when you do get to the point where you're at with a broker, you will have those documents already in front of you in your system to send to that broker ahead of time, instead of trying to waste time calling the carrier. So everything kind of works together. So now you're going to send those documents to the broker. The broker is going to say, okay, you're all set up. We went over with our compliance team. Everything looks good. Let me send you a rate confirmation for this particular load that you initially called me about. But before you do that, you want to negotiate that rate higher, right? You want to get that 10% on top of this 1,800. So you want to negotiate 2,000, because 10% is 180 plus the 1,800 is 1,980. So let's say 2,000. You always want to round up. So let's say the broker agreed to that. You say, yeah, we could do this for, I see you got it posted for 1,800, Blue Grace. We could do it for 2,000. My guy's ready now. He can take that load up. He's empty right now. He's in Florence, South Carolina. You want to give him as much bait as possible. I got a carrier right now, empty in Florence, South Carolina. We can take it. Let's go. Add 200 to that. We can do it for $2,000. Right now, he's there. He's in Florence right now. Broker will be like, yeah, let's go. Let's go. Because they want that load moved as quick as possible, because it looks good from a broker's standpoint to their customer. They can get loads. If brokers can get loads booked like this and this in the eyes of their customers, the customer's going to say, okay, you're a good broker. I'm going to reward you with more loads. So everything works in sequence like that. But you as a dispatcher, you give that broker that bait. You got a carrier. I got a carrier available right now. He's in Florence. He just got empty. He's in Florence, South Carolina right now. He's empty. He has a reefer. We could do it for an extra 200. Give us 2,000 or 2,100, especially if it's more than a 1-in-1. If it's 2 picks and 3 drops, because the broker did not say in the details. But what if it was a 2-1? So for every extra pickup or every extra delivery, you want to add an extra $200 to $300 per pickup and delivery. That's how that works. Why do you ask? Because every facility that you go to, your carrier has to check in at the security gate. They have to wait that time to get loaded at the loading dock. They have to sit there while the forklifts go on their truck to offload them. They need to be compensated for that. So let's say, for example, in this load, it was a 2-pick, 2-drop. So you gave them one of those picks and one of those drops. But for the extra pick and the extra drop, that's an extra $200 to $300 on the pick, an extra $200 to $300 on the drop. So that's an extra $400 to $600 added to that rate. That's the beauty of reefer loads. You can add to the rate. All right. Any questions?
Yes. You said that's the beauty of reefer loads. So you can't add to the rate on any of the other drive-in or the flatbed?
Yes, you can, in the sense I'll say, okay, let me take that back. That's the beauty of adding to the reefer loads, but it is possible to add to drive-in and flatbed loads, because there are cases where you may have more than one delivery and more than one pickup for drive-in and flatbed loads. What I'm saying is it's more prevalent and more expected with reefer loads with that, because you got refrigerated products and they got to get dropped off at different distribution centers or different shippers or different receivers. It's just more prevalent with the reefer equipment types. I'm not saying that it's not with dry vans and flatbeds. It's just more so with the reefers. And you also got to factor in with all three equipment types. You got layover times, you got detention times. You may be sitting at a distribution center for 5 or 6 hours. So you got to get paid for that detention. That's called detention. You know, in your broker carrier agreement, you give the broker about 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours free. And then after that, anything after that is detention. And your carrier gets paid for that. You know, anywhere between $50 to $100 an hour over. So,
okay. So basically, anytime you have an extra stop, you need to add to it a stop or drop.
Correct, because now, and it just makes sense. You don't want your carrier working for free.
Exactly.
Right? So,
exactly.
Let's see. Can you explain picks and drops and multiple picks, like 3 picks and 2 drops? Does that mean pick up 3 loads and then take them to 2 separate? That's correct. That is exactly correct, Shira. So if you got 3 picks and 2, in other words, you're going to 3 different shippers to pick up freight in order to equal 1 full truckload on that trailer, and then you're delivering to 2 different receivers, half of it to one receiver and half of it to the other receiver. In your example here in this question, 3 multiple picks and 2 multiple drops. So that's exactly what that means. You hit it right on the head. So now the rate confirmation. Let's say the broker agreed and said, "I'll give you $2,100 if your carrier is empty right now. He could be there within the next 2 hours." Yeah, he's in the exact same city. It's not going to take him 2 hours. It's going to take him 20 minutes to get there. He's in Florence. He may be on the other side of the city according to the zip code, but he'll get there. And give me 30 minutes. I'll be there. So he goes, "Okay, I'll give you $2,100. So now the broker is going to create a rate confirmation now for you to sign and send back to the broker to officially book that load. No load is officially booked until the rate confirmation is signed and received by that broker. All the carrier packet does is to get that carrier set up with that broker, right? But the rate confirmation officially books the load, that specific load, for that carrier. So the rate confirmation shows where the load is being picked up, where it's being delivered to, what's the weight, what's the commodity. Commodity means what's actually on the trailer, what's being hauled. You know, it could be dry goods, beverages, frozen chickens, whatever. The number of pallets, the number of pieces, the load number, the reference number. The reason that is because when your carrier, especially if it's multiple pickups and drops, if your carrier gets to a location, they can reference it based off of the reference and the load numbers. So they'll know exactly how many pieces they need and how many pieces they need to keep on the trailer. So the shipper's address, the consignee's address. So you may see on some rate confirmation, another word for consignee is receiver. Another word for shipper is consignor, C-O-N-S-I-N-O-R instead of E-E. So consignor and consignee, you may see them on the rate confirmations, or you may see shipper and receiver, just so you know, okay? So let me put that in the chat so you guys will have that. So another word for shipper, it lets me type, shipper equals consignor, it's another word for that, and receiver equals consignee. So you'll come across those terms. So they mean one and the same. And they may interchange them like they do here on this rate confirmation to kind of confuse people. But there you go. And then you have the pickup dates and times, the delivery dates and times, the number of stops, any extra stops. So everything is explained. The line haul rate, and if there's a fuel surcharge in there too, that's included in line. The line haul rate is the same thing as what the load is posted for, what they sell a load to you for. So for example, this 1,800, or in our case, we negotiated up to 2,100. That's the line haul rate, okay, of that load. So that may include the fuel surcharge, it may not. So the fuel surcharge, a fuel surcharge is what they help you pay for some of the fuel. They help the carrier pay for the fuel, but they include it in the rate sometimes. So as you grow in your dispatching duties, you'll be able to ask, is the fuel surcharge included in the line haul rate? And they'll either say yes or no. And if they say no, well, can we include fuel surcharge in the line haul rate? So now they got to add a fuel surcharge, let's say like 28 cents per mile. They're going to add 28 cents per mile times 601 miles. So 28 cents, let's do that number. So they'll give you 28 cents times, or whatever that number is, 601. So they'll give you $168 in this example. If we use 28 cents, they'll give you $168 and 28 cents extra to help pay for the fuel to get that load moved. So that's $168.28 less fuel that the carrier has to pay to run that load, because the broker included the fuel surcharge in the rate. Okay, you guys follow that? All right, and that's kind of it in a nutshell in dispatching. Now you have little idiosyncrasies and little things come along the way. Once you book that load and return that rate confirmation, the only thing next is the broker may call you and say, okay, I need the driver who's driving that truck, the truck and trailer number, the driver's cell phone, because the broker is going to do what's called check calls on the carrier, on the driver. They want to make sure while that driver is under their load for their customer, who's the shipper, they want to make sure that they're moving along, pretty steadily, so they can update, number one, the shipper, and then number two, call the receiver and let them know the driver's moving along, he'll still be there on time. Because you may have a case where you may have an emergency. What if your carrier gets a flat tire, or there's a traffic jam or anything? This is the transportation industry. Those things happen. So you got to be prepared for those things. But if you have a driver that communicates with their dispatcher, who in turn communicates with the broker, then the broker is going to make sure that their customer, the shipper, is updated, and the shipper is going to make sure their customer, whoever they're delivering it to, the receiver, is updated. So it's all about communicating. So it starts between the dispatcher and the carrier and the driver, and then it trickles up from the broker all the way to the shipper and their customer. All right. Q&A. I'm open up for Q&A. Q&A.
So if we were to sign up for, I guess, the additional training outside of what you just taught, what would be the benefits or the more that I would get in regards to that? I'm sorry, you might have went over it already, but
this is Latoya.
I wasn't here.
Latoya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You get that more detailed, and then you get access to the load boards and trainings on those load boards so that you can find loads yourself. You also get eBooks, my eBooks, 3 eBooks, the glossary. Let me go to the website here. You get access to everything in the back office, because I didn't even cover book. Well, I guess I did cover booking and load. I didn't cover invoicing the carriers. What software do you use to invoice your carrier, like Square, PayPal, Invoice Home, QuickBooks, however you invoice them, and when do you invoice, how to automate that process, all the tools and resources in the back office. I'm not going to click that because it has some stuff that I don't want people to see, because I have students who are actually paying for that. So, but forms and documents, all the training videos from times past. I got over 110 videos in the back office that you can reference. So when you have questions, my phone line is an open door policy. I can be gotten a hold of very easily. My email as well. So my time, basically, and then in addition to everything that you've gotten, but you get more detail.
And one last question for me, because I keep going back and forth between dispatcher and broker. What would you say to a person who's kind of in defense of both? Like me, I have one truck on the road, and I keep going back and forth on whether I should dig deeper into brokerage or dispatching. Me being a brand new person who know nothing about the field, it would take your training. I want to actually be involved in a whole, you know what I mean, in all areas. We already talked about that before.
Right.
But I'm kind of on the fence with both. By me being brand new, I don't want to, you know, put too much on me that I need to, but I need to make a decision, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Makes perfect sense. Then I guess you're kind of in the same boat as Cynthia, but she's a little bit further along because she actually has her authority, her broker authority. But like I was telling Cynthia offline before I hit the record button, the easiest entry point into this transportation space from a broker, dispatcher, trucking company's perspective would be and from a financial standpoint, would be as a dispatcher, because there's not a lot of costs, startup costs involved in that. And you don't need like an authority to be a dispatcher. All you need is a business license, EIN number, and the ability to get carriers to say, yeah, I want you to dispatch for me. And then having the tools and resources to be able to find those loads for them, namely the load boards and things like that. And then having the training to understand how that's done. You know, once you book your first load from start to finish, that whole process, the rest becomes easy because the process of booking a load is always going to be the same. The only thing that changes is the players, the carriers and the brokers, the truck drivers and the brokers. But the process of doing it is always going to be the same. You get the carrier, you find the load, you book the load, you invoice the carrier after they deliver. Next, you get another carrier or the same carrier. You find their next load, either the same broker or a different broker, so on and so forth. So the process is the same. It's just the players the same changes. But to answer your question, the financial entry point that's easiest is as a dispatcher. You're going to have a great, and I'll be realistic with you. I don't know what other freight broker trainers or dispatch trainers tell you. You will have a more difficult challenge, and I think Cynthia will begin to come into this process too. But you're going to have a more difficult challenge as a new broker than you would as a new dispatcher, because you are going after the big boys as a broker. You're going after the shippers, the ones who give you the load so you can make the money. But they require an extensive amount more of you as a broker than a carrier does for a dispatcher. You follow what I'm saying?
Makes a lot of sense. I got a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me see what somebody's typed something in here real quick. Sorry, I missed this, but load boards do. We do need the carrier MC in order to even go on these loads. Yes, you do. If you're on my training platform, that's already covered. You just have the logins, because I got carriers, MCs. I'm paying for load boards and just sharing the username and passwords with you guys on my platform. That's how that works. But you do need an MC. If you want to get your own load boards, you would need the MC of one of your carriers to access the load board to get started. They're not going to give you a load. There are free load boards, but those are some of the lower quality loads. I'll be honest with you, if you want the higher end loads and to make them the most that you can get, you would go for the better load boards, which requires the MC. Go ahead, Ron.
Question is how long does that process take once you get it going? How long is that process, between dispatcher and carrier to book a load, with a broker? How long does that process take?
It depends. That's a good question. It depends, and this is going to be a generic answer, but it's a true answer. It depends on the effort of the dispatcher and the willingness of the carrier to take the loads. You may have a dispatcher who works his tail off finding loads for the carrier, but you may have a carrier who is so picky about certain loads that he's going to make his dispatcher pull his hair out. The dispatcher found him everything that he wanted according to the profile, but the carrier says, oh man, I still don't want that lowest. I don't think I want. So you pull in your hair like, God dog, man, what do you want? So it depends. It varies. It's hard, but generally the safe answer is it just depends on the relationship between you, the dispatcher, and the carrier. So if you keep your carrier happy, every load that you find for them, they're going to take that load. Now, I've had students who went through the training, started learning something, got a carrier, and the very next week booked the load. When I started, it took me about a month because I wasn't the people person, believe it or not. I wasn't the people person talking on the phone, cold calling. And then once I did that, I was nervous starting out. I took rejection pretty badly. And then, but once you get past that, on the other side of fear, right? There's a saying, success is on the other side of fear. Once you get over that fear, which is an illusion, to be honest with you, because what are you fearing? The person is not threatening you physically. You're talking to a person on another line in another state, possibly, right? And the worst they can say is no. Okay, next, move on to the next one. At some point, you're going to come across a carrier who needs your services, right? And when you send a dispatcher agreement out, you're going to get cases where carriers are not going to respond. They're not going to send it back, right? But again, at some point, you're going to get a carrier who's going to return that dispatcher agreement because they really need your services. Okay? Chan said, can a dispatcher who gets their own operating authority, do they need a CDL? No. Dispatchers don't need a CDL. Dispatchers don't need an operating authority. Is that even when we go off independently, or is it just in your class? I'm not sure what you're asking, Stepping Stone or Brooke. I'm assuming that you're piggybacking from your first question up here. Okay. She's saying, I'm sorry if I missed this, but for the load boards, do we need? Yeah, you would need, while you're in my class, you have access to those load boards. But if you venture off on your own, you would still need an MC to be able to get a login for a load board. Because when you call the load board companies, they are asking for MCs because these load boards are designed for brokers and carriers. So they require MC authorities to get access to them. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
So being that I have the broker stuff, the MC number, can I still dispatch?
Yeah. You can keep that completely separate.
You can keep it separate and still, okay.
Yeah. Keep that completely separate.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
This I feel. So
Yes.
Charles, my question is, how many screens do we need on our computer if we're using more than one load board? You think we need more screens, or we could just use that same screen?
I started out using the same screen with multiple tabs, but if you can afford to get dual monitors, that would be ideal. As you progress and grow in your business, then get a desktop with dual monitors, or get a laptop with one monitor that can plug into a VGA port on your laptop. So, but starting out, have multiple tabs on one screen until you get to a point where you get enough resources and income in to afford a desktop with dual monitors.
Okay, thank you. So now I have another question as well.
Okay.
So you were saying for beginners, you suggested they start with the dry van, the reefers, and the flatbeds. Those three that you recommended that runs the most. But I have a box truck, and I do have my MC number and everything. But I want to be able to do on those load boards. Will I be able to do all of them, or will I have to get something special for the box truck? Or what?
You can look up box truck loads on the regular load boards.
Mm-hmm.
And I will show you. Where are you located?
I'm in Ocala, Florida, but I leave out. I go to Jacksonville and Tampa a lot to try to get out of Florida. Like right now, we're out of Florida. My driver is headed to New York. He went from Georgia to Savannah, and now he's headed to New York. But I still got to try to find him something coming back, trying to come back.
Okay, so let me give you first. Let me give you two load boards that specialize in the box trucks, and then I'm going to stay on one of my load boards, or regular load boards, and then filter out loads for box trucks. Is that okay?
That's great.
Okay, so the two load boards that specialize in box trucks. One is called My Virtual Fleet. Now I'm gonna send a link. I'm just gonna type it in Google, so you can. My Virtual Fleet, right? So we're gonna click that, and that's it right here. My Virtual Fleet. Now, The issue with this, you can put it on the app on the phone or you can do it on your computer, but you have to know how to bid on these loads and they send it to you through email. That's the only caveat to that, okay?
Okay.
All right, so there's that, My Virtual Fleet. The next one is, and it's the higher end one, and it's the best one for load boards for box trucks, straight trucks, sprinter vans, cargo vans, but you're gonna pay out the yin yang for it. So,
okay.
It's called Selectus. Selectus load boards is by a company by Omnitrax. All right, so Omnitrax Selectus.
Mm-hmm.
And waiting for it to come up so I can copy it and send you the link. It's about $5 to $6 grand to purchase, and it's about, yes, it's about $5 to $6 grand to purchase and about $350 a month to maintain, and they require you to have at least a 5 truck fleet in order to even get into their sandbox, so to speak, right? So
okay. Okay, when you say 5 truck fleet, do it necessarily have to be my truck? Can I come back?
Let's say you're a dispatcher and let's say you happen to stumble upon, you're fortunate enough to stumble upon a trucking company that wants you to dispatch for them, and they have 5, 6, 7 trucks in their trucking company. That's a fleet.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by that. And yes, chances are correct. You have to have a fleet, and the minimum I think is 5 trucks. So,
okay.
So those are the two. And then now so you say you're in Ocala, Florida?
Ocala.
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 I'm gonna do a new search, and let's see, Ocala, OCALA. Let me go back.
Yes.
OCALA, Florida. So it should populate. That's the beauty about this one. You type a city, it populates. So going anywhere. So now remember I said either a general equipment type or specific. So I'm gonna say specific on this particular load board, specific, and then I'm gonna select all the equipment types that relate to a box truck. And I'm going to say, so I'm going to scroll here, scroll down, flatbed, hot shots. I'm out of the flatbeds, low boys, moving van, power only, reefers, scroll down. Straight box truck, right?
Right.
I'm going to say van, I'm going to say van air ride, I'm going to say van hot shot, and it should be van lift gate, and there it is. So those are the 5 categories. I think there's another one. I think that's it. Now, those are the categories that I selected for equipment type. Now I'm going to change the length because a box truck is 26 feet the most, right?
Correct.
And then the weight is about 10,000 pounds, but I'm going to say 9,500 just to be safe. Let's say 9,700.
Okay.
Let's say 9,800. Let's play a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And I'm gonna say both full and partial, okay? And everything else be the same. So I'm gonna hit search coming out of Ocala, Florida, and see if there's any box trucks, related loads coming out of Ocala. Look at that, 63.
Oh, wow.
8 exact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's one, but remember though, you gotta make sure that they're paying good. This one's not paying nothing. It's paying $1,300, but you're going 3,000 miles. Are they crazy? 10 feet, 5,000 pounds at 10 feet. So I'm gonna put this in order of highest to lowest. I'm gonna click offer. They gotta be out there rabid mind.
Yes.
I'm gonna take.
It's like that in Florida. I'm in Florida. It's like that.
They gotta be crazy. You almost have to just work local. Like I would deliver for Mattress Firm or IKEA at $600 a day for 5 days. That's $3 grand locally before I do a over the road box truck thing, which you can do that too. You can get local contracts with local companies with a box truck delivery, but you're going to be touching the freight. You may have to hire a driver and a helper to have them deliver for IKEA or deliver from. I got a buddy here in Virginia Beach delivering from Mattress Firm, but he only touching like 50-pound mattresses and taking them to the front threshold of the door. They're giving him $600 a day for like 10 to 12 stops a day. And he's working 6 days a week. So 6 times 6, that's $3,600. He's giving his driver $120, $125 a day, and his helper is $75 to $100 a day. So you, after you cut all that out, he's local, so he's not burning much fuel. He only got 10 stops. So you just got to consider that. But be that as it may, that's how you navigate the load boards to find loads for a box trucks. Now let's edit that and choose an area that may be different. Let's say Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And all things being the same, all the other stuff being the same. Let's search that. Now 63 is going to turn into 157. Loads coming out of Atlanta for a box truck. So let's say you take your box truck up to Atlanta, put your guys in a hotel for a minute, and then see what you can get out of Atlanta. So, and it's crazy.
Normally what I do is we'll do an Amazon. I leave from here and go to Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I would normally get something from Amazon, and we'll end up, I take something going to South Carolina or Georgia a little further. And then that's when I start looking on the load board while they're out there. I try to keep him out there while he's out, and then I'll try to bring him back in by Thursday.
Okay. Now are you in an area where you're Amazon? Because sometimes Amazon will pay more if you let them wrap your truck with their logos and stuff like that.
I didn't know about that.
I didn't know if you knew that or not, because
I didn't.
Yeah, you're providing Amazon with free advertising by putting their information on your trucks, but they're paying you for that in addition to paying you for the loads and all that stuff. So, but yeah, but as far as this is concerned, so that's how you would navigate the load boards to find loads for. You just pretty much filter the specs on your particular equipment type in your kit. Just the same thing will hold true for a hot shot. Let's say somebody had a hot shot. You guys know what a hot shot is, right? A flatbed, 40-foot flatbed trailer attached to a dually pickup truck, right? A Ram 3500 or Ford F350 or whatever, right? That's a hot shot. So let's just change, let's say Atlanta. So the hot shots are, now we got to change the categories from flatbeds to hot shots. So let's say you get a hot shot. So box trucks carriers and hot shot carriers are easy to get because they're always looking for dispatchers to help them find loads, because they know it's difficult to find loads for their equipment types. That's why you'll have an easier time to go after hot shots. But be warned for those challenges though. So hot shots, flatbed air ride, flatbed hot shots. I think that's it for the hot shots. Right, flatbed and just flatbeds. And then what you do is you just change the length again. So they go up to 40 feet and they go about, let's start off with 20,000 pounds. Okay. And all things considered being the same, let's hit search and see what we get. 540, 35 exact. So now these are hot shots. So it even says it, flatbed hot shot, FH, flatbed hot shots. So 12,000 pounds, 21 feet. Here's one, $1,800 going 700 something miles is going from Tennessee to Florida. That's not bad. That's over $2 a mile, almost $3 a mile. So you can get loads. You just got to know how to advertise. So that's how you find loads for a hot shot. That's a good paying load for a hot shot, I believe. It's 25 feet, 15,000 pounds. So if you got a guy who has a 40-foot trailer and he can haul 20,000 pounds, that's in his category. So now it's a utility truck they're hauling, needs a ramp. Most hot shots, they have a dovetail ramp, no tarps, just strap and roll. So there you go. So what's the cents per mile for that? $7.19 by $1,800. Right? There you go. You see, so that's how you would navigate and find $2. So I guarantee you a hot shot carrier, if they were in Tennessee or near Tennessee and they wanted to go down to Florida, maybe they'll take that. That's $2.50, $1,800. You're taking a, so. All right, let's see what's in the chat here. What's the best way to advertise? Okay, well, there's several. Depends. You got email campaigns, you got social media becoming pretty good, commercials, business cards and flyers. Social media is probably is the number one because everybody's on one of these accounts: Facebook, like Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So you can get to a lot of people quicker through social media, or what's called web marketing, online marketing, email campaigning, blogging, social media marketing, mobile marketing. You just gotta, if you know someone who specializes in marketing and reaching, doing what's called lead generation, whether it's through social media, whether it's through email campaigning, look somebody up in your area that has a good marketing one-on-one background, and then decide how much you want to budget for your particular dispatching company, and go from there, right? What else? What else you guys got? All right, were there any other questions? Hopefully I answered a lot of the questions. I know that Lucian was on this call. I think he has some questions, but I think he's driving, so he cannot speak, I don't think. But to the two that actually—
I can talk. I just I can't see the video.
Okay. And then for the two that paid for the registration, who have the training materials, all the eBooks and the glossary, I just want to make sure that you guys got your money's worth. And that's Althea and Brooke. I almost forgot her name.
Yes, I did, and I appreciate everything. So
Right.
I'll be joining the class.
Right. So that was my next thing. So if you registered, for those who did register and you decided that you wanted to go through the ongoing training, then what you paid for the registration will roll into the price of the ongoing training. So you would just pay less and you'll still get they'll open up for you, as far as the load boards and the trainings on that and everything like that. So, and you'll be able to hear live calls to brokers, hear live calls to carriers, work on strategies to get the carriers under a dispatch agreement, different ways to do that. Other resources. I didn't even go into Quick Transport Solutions. I didn't go into the DAT directory. Since I'm in Trucker's Edge, let's go to the DAT directory under Tools, DAT directory. This is another way to research and look for carriers. And this is a load board that those who are subscription-based members of this platform have access to. So the DAT directory is under here, under Search Directory tab, under Research New Businesses. You can search for carriers. You can keep the company name blank, the company type, you want to search for carriers. Now, if you are a broker like Cynthia, you want to search for shippers in your area, starting off in your area. So Cynthia, where are you from, Cynthia? City and state?
I'm in Georgia.
So let's say Atlanta, Georgia, which is a popular area, right? And you are a broker, so Atlanta, Georgia, so you want to look for shippers to start calling or going to visit for your brokerage to get them. So you select company type shipper. And then radius, you want to, within, let's say, 150-mile radius of Atlanta, you want to sort it, the results sorted by company name, because you left company name blank, and then you hit search. So you got 70 matches. You got 70 shippers that you can look for in the Atlanta and the metropolitan area. So if you notice this space is all this white space, it's not until you click one that you get details of the shipper. Contact number, information about it, maybe even a website that you can look up, any reviews. Let's click another. You may be familiar with some of these shippers in the area. Or you could decide whatever, what's your niche or what are you looking for, the type of shippers you want to focus on. You're in the Atlanta area, you may want to focus on like lumber loads or produce shippers or beverages or general freight. So then you can go to another resource like McRae's Blue Book. I don't know if you've heard of that, Cynthia.
No. What is lumber loads?
Lumber, like wood, trees, lumber.
I thought you said lumber.
No,
lumber. Okay.
Yeah, lumber is something that when carriers get to loading docks, the forklift workers in the warehouse that load and offload the trucks, they charge a fee. That's called a lumper. So, but lumber is the type, lumber loads, So McRae's Blue Book is great for brokers to look for shippers, manufacturers. Now, with you as a broker, you want to get into the concept of supply chain logistics, and that's a hierarchy. Summer asks, is enrollment ongoing or by cohort? It's once you enroll, you stand for as long as you need to training, and you can get out anytime. It's a one-time enrollment cost, and then it's 1 month after that enrollment date. Then there is a $19.99 monthly subscription 1 month after the day you enroll. So you get, and that just shows me that you have skin in the game where you're paying for, because I'm paying for load boards that are like $30 here, $70 there. What's the other one? 90 something. So I'm paying for high-end load boards, but I'm giving all the access to you guys, plus everything in the back office for $19.99 to maintain access to that stuff. And I add to and take away from the website back office periodically, because I try to keep things updated as I come across information about the transportation industry as it relates to dispatchers. All right. So Cynthia, for you, the supply chain logistics concept, I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's a hierarchy. At the top, you have raw materials, and then you have the manufacturers, you have the distributors, and then you have the wholesalers, the retailers, and then the end user. That's the hierarchy. So you can target specific shippers within one of those hierarchical categories. Let's say you want to go after raw material shippers, or let's say you want to go after distributor shippers or wholesale shippers. So then you would research wholesale or distributors or raw material shippers in your area. So that's how you break down and drill down in your brokerage to decide what type of shippers you want to go, because you want to research the area and see what type of in that hierarchy is prevalent in your area in Atlanta. So you would say, okay, so I'm sharing my screen. So let's go to Google and let's say shippers or wholesalers or manufacturers, if I can spell it. And Google's an excellent manufacturers in Atlanta, Georgia. So bam. So, and then you can view all, here's the map of it. So all the manufacturers, for the most part, look at all these manufacturers in Atlanta and the surrounding area. That's a good starting point if you want to focus on manufacturers, and then you target them, and now you go out there and solicit your brokerage and try to get set up with these shippers. Either you can look at their website, do your homework for them, so when you go talk to them, you can show them that you know what you're talking about because you've done your research prior to going to talk to them. And you can do the same for shippers. Let's say shippers in Atlanta, Georgia, right? So this is just a starting point for you from a broker side. And I go over this in the broker training. I just want to give you a little caveat of it. So here's all the shippers in the Atlanta and the surrounding areas, all the shipping companies, the major ones at least, right? So now you look at their websites, see what type of products they ship, what they do, what their volume is. So when you go talk to them, you'll look more professional when you're talking to them, and you'll impress the shipping manager, the logistics manager, or the person that's in charge of shipping. You see that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then that directory, look, now let's go back. Let's do a new search. I did it for shippers. Let's go back and do it for dispatchers. So for dispatchers, let's say Atlanta, right? Georgia, and keep it in 150 radius. And now let's look for carriers. We're looking for carriers now because we're dispatchers, and we're going to still sort it by the company name. Look at that. You've resulted in more than 500 matches. So there's over 500 carriers in the Atlanta and the 150-mile radius surrounding areas. That's in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, what have you, because that's 150 miles radius in Atlanta. So you click one and it gives you more details about the carrier, the commodities that they haul or the freight that's on the truck, general freight, dry bulk, and beverages. So based off of what they haul right here for this particular company, of the 3 major equipment types, which one do you think goes on that truck? Van, reefer, or flatbed? Right? Can anybody? Because this is what the commodity.
Van.
Van. There you go. I was waiting on somebody to say a van, because you could put beverages on a van, dry bulk, and general freight. I can't see it going on a flatbed. You probably could put it on a reefer, but you got to turn the reefer unit off because you're not keeping it cool, right? And then you get more information about them, their equipment. Here's their equipment. And that gave it away right there. 1 53-foot van under equipment. You select another one and do the same thing. General freight, you know that's going to be a van. You go down, if they have an equipment section, it'll tell you. But this one doesn't. But you could tell by what they haul. Let's go to another one. General freight, grain, feed, hay, agricultural supplies. That might be a flatbed. Or it might be a flatbed and a van. You never know. So they got 2 vans. So that's weird. They're putting hay on a van? I would have thought that would have been a flatbed. But anyway, so that's how you do that. So if you were a dispatcher, you would use that directory to look up carriers for your city and state or the surrounding areas and then get results and then get information about them, call them. And then another resource for the dispatchers to look for carriers is called Quick Transport Solutions. And this is free, so I'm going to go ahead and give this to you guys. Quick Transport Solutions. Right there, Quick Transport Solutions. But I'm going to show you how to navigate it. So when you first get here, you can set up an account by logging in and setting up an account, but you can use the free version because you're just looking for carriers. So you're going to go under the resources link, click that, and select search trucking companies. Okay, select that. And then in this search criteria area right here, select the state. Let's say, let's keep the same theme going in Georgia. Let's say you don't select Atlanta. Let's say just the state of Georgia. Leave the city blank, leave the companies blank. Truck and trailers, you want to keep it, since you are a new dispatching company, let's say 1 to 5. And then the type of operation, you want an interstate trucking company, a trucking company that can travel outside of the state of Georgia. So there's interstate and intrastate types of authorities. If it's interstate, they can not only can they operate in their state, in this example, Georgia, but they can operate outside of the state. If it was intrastate, INTRA, then they can only operate within the state of Georgia. They cannot cross state lines. So now you get that, and then you hit search. And then you get your results. Page 1 of 9, and then 434 results. So you're going to scroll down. There's like advertisements here. You can just X out of those, but you just scroll down to the results and all these different trucking companies. And then you just click one to get some details about it. And you can cross-reference their information with the Safer website. Do a company snapshot of them if they don't give you enough information inside of the details on this website. You can cross-reference with Safer, the Safer website. And I think I sent you a link to that. So, okay. A lot of information, a lot of content. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. It's just one little seminar. But for those who got the training material, the 2 who registered, it breaks it down very, very basic. For those who are guests, you're just seeing me share the screen and just sharing some data with you guys, but it's all relative. So any other questions before we part ways? We're good? No questions? Thank you all 13 participants. There were 15, but now there's 13, which is cool. Okay, up top, closet. Very informed. Thank you. You are welcome. All the guests, thank you. And the two who registered, if you do roll over into the training, just let me know. I always leave my contact information because I'm trying to be as transparent as possible for you guys. So there's my phone number, and then here's my email. If you have any questions about joining or just general questions at all, Exodus Logistics LLC at yahoo.com. All right. All right, guys. I allotted 3 hours, but we did it in two and 12 minutes, so that's cool. Any questions outside of this seminar? Hopefully I answered everyone's questions, and you guys can have a more informed decision about whether you want to go dispatching or freight brokering or even a trucking company. I got eBooks that if you want the eBooks, I got one on Amazon and other ones through the site right here. Put that on there. So you say you don't want to join the course, but you still want some information. So you could order either the 3-for-1, 4-for-1 packages, or just order them individually. I have a Freight Broker 101 ebook for you, Cynthia. If you want the basics without actually enrolling, that's more of a cheaper for you. And then each individual ebooks, or you can order them as a 2-for-1, 3-for-1 kind of a package deal to kind of springboard you into maybe answering questions about being a dispatcher or a freight broker. In the freight broker training, a lot of content here. I go over so much TMS systems. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to need to have in front of you, Cynthia, from a broker standpoint. The different packet types from a broker's perspective, the shipper broker packet, and then the broker carrier packet. A TMS system, whether it's Ascend, whether it's eFreight Solutions, Load Pilot, Axis. Matter of fact, let me show you. Let me give you a snippet of this. I normally don't open this up because it's a guest area, but let me go ahead and go into the TMS. Let's see here. Why is it not? Oh, I guess it doesn't let me in from this. Oh, okay. There we go. All right. So I'm not going to say that password. So the TMS system, transportation management software to freight brokers. Just a brief overview of what it does. The different types of TMS systems. This is for Cynthia's benefit. Ascend is the most popular basic level one. You have Ascend, Basic, and Premium. That's the easiest one to learn. And then you have these other ones, eFreight Solutions, Axis. Algex is a popular one, but it's rather expensive. And then Load Pilot, I did not put in here. I'm not going to scroll further down because it gets into the course, but there you have it. And then we go into getting customers, working capital, the 4 R's of freight brokering, the difference between a broker and an agent, and whether you need one starting out. Approved carriers, booking loads as a broker, the workflow of doing that with the load tenders from the shipper to the broker, tools and resources under the freight broker training, and in the training videos. So there's more content under freight broker than there is under dispatching because there's more to do as a broker than there is as a dispatcher. All right. All right, any final comments, questions before we get off? All right, guys. Well, okay, let's see. Someone said something here. All right. Cynthia just said yes, thank you. Okay, guys. I want to thank you guys. This has been recorded, so I'm deciding what I want to do with this. I may put it on the YouTube channel under the dispatching section. We did talk about freight broker too, so, but I'll make a decision about that later on. All right, guys, enjoy your evening. Salute to all you guys. Look forward to you getting some type of training, whether it's through this platform or through another one that provide even more information than I did. So, but the goal is to get you guys started in dispatching. So, all right, guys, have a good night. My normal live trainings for my students are Wednesday evening, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll have another training Wednesday night, but that's for the enrolled students. So until then, I'll see you guys. Have a good evening, everyone. Good night.